to welcome our TGS graduates of 2018. Welcome to our 2018 commencement ceremony. Before I introduce our speakers this evening, I would like to say a few words to our graduates. Oh, hey, brats. Don't worry, I won't be throwing you any shade tonight, only light and love, mostly because other people are listening. But also because you deserve loads of light and love after dominating our last ever round of the IB program here at TGS. And let's not forget that you are all survivors of spot to-dos, status updates, bed checks, EE meetings, lice inspections, reflection time, and the ever-dreaded freedom zone. But tonight is the night where those norms transcend into distant memories as TGS becomes your past and the unknown becomes your future. Most of you have spent the past year with much anticipation for that big, scary thing called the future. Awaiting news of university acceptances, making gap year plans, anxious for those IB reveals coming in July. I can see it and feel it in each of you, the drive and the dreams. Ukarsha, a future ambassador. Pablo, a political leader. Elliot, a meandering philosopher. But instead of celebrating your futures with you tonight, I want to celebrate who you are right now, right in this moment. The truth is, there's no need to look toward the future for your fulfillment. When we are unable to feel fulfilled in the present moment, we've lost the most precious gift we are given, which is the acceptance of who we are right now. So many forms of fear are born out of seeking fulfillment in the future, of thinking what could or should be, of who we will or won't be in this life. Unease, stress, anxiety are all born out of our own unfulfilled expectations of our future selves. So tonight I ask you to be fully aware of who you are right now, of all that you've accomplished to help you be who you are right now, and all of the people and places that you've encountered that have helped shape who you are right now. When I look at you, I don't see who you will be, I see who you are. Chloe, you're a deep, authentic thinker whose curiosity knows no bounds. Cheeto, an unrivaled storyteller with an impeccable fashion taste, I might add. Paula, a caretaker beyond measure for every human you encounter. Kay's already an entrepreneur, as we all bore witness to. Jenna, an environmentalist. Eden, a soulful singer. And Oskar, the tech-savvy futurist. My advice for you is don't be a slave to the idea of who you've created, of who you should be. It is the quality of your mind and heart in this very moment that shapes the future. And you will attract and manifest what corresponds to the shape of your mind and heart. So when Kojo laughs his soul-shaking laughter, we all revel in his joy. And when Andrew shares his pragmatism charged with his intellect and ageless wisdom, we evolve from it. When Helen is fearlessly free to be herself, we adopt that freedom. And when Waji feels full of love and gratitude, we feel it, we absorb it, and we become it. The quality of your consciousness, whether good or bad, will spread like wildfire in this life. Wanting a better future is easier than wanting to be better. So fear not as you look forward, my brats, and stop defining yourself by the things that you might do or who you might be, but instead by who you are. You don't need the future to validate your light. Who you are within is infinitely greater than any unknown. And yes, you will all go on to shake the world, but just remember that you already have. With all the light and love I can offer you. Love you guys. 2018. Our first speaker, other than me, needs no introduction. She thinks big, she loves hard, she dances like a dervish, and she swims with the sharks. A privileged minority in this world get the opportunities that Joe has gifted us. Think Global School founder, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Joann McPike.
Oh, I look at all these gorgeous young faces, and I remember when a lot of you arrived in New Zealand. These tiny little things. They were tiny little things, and now they're like these big adults. It's amazing. As I was sitting to write this speech, as I do every year, I do the same as I do every year, and is panic, because I know that I have to follow what they did in Symposium yesterday, and what they did at the Poetry Slam last night, and that's never easy. So I was like, what am I going to say? Last year, I spoke about how important it was to remember to dance and to love. I've spoken in past years about integrity, responsibility, and being the best you that you can be. So how do I follow all of that? So I was sitting there last night pondering, about all the changes that are happening in TGS that are happening in TGS this year, and it came to me that this year I'm going to speak to you about bubbles. Bubbles. The natural progression is bubbles. Not the champagne kind of bubbles, and not the soap kind of bubbles, but the kind of bubbles that we surround ourselves with that make ourselves feel safe. People, places, traditions, and rituals, all that lovely, fuzzy, warm stuff that keeps us grounded in the fact that we're comfortable knowing what we know, and we're proud of what we know, and we're convinced of who we are. Inside these bubbles, we tell ourselves that we're open-minded and that we're brave, and we've got this. Until that moment, that bubble actually bursts, and we realize that, well, maybe I don't have this. and that it really is kind of scary out there, and how am I going to survive, and who is there to talk to, and who can understand me? Where is my bubble so I can climb back into it, even just for a moment? But bubbles burst, always, guaranteed, whether we want them to or not, and it's the best thing for us. Sometimes we make that bubble burst by choice, because we see what's on the outside of it and we want to go there. We find the sharpest thing we can find and we jab at it, and then we run towards what we want. And sometimes the bubble bursts for us. And then we stand there like deer in the headlights, and we have a WTF look on our face, and we go, oh my God, what way am I going to go? And I want to crawl back inside my bubble. And sometimes we're trapped inside a bubble, and we kick and we scream and we try to get out of it without realizing that with just a little push in the right direction, it'll disappear with ease, and we can finally take that deep breath that we've wanted. So here today, there are a number of bubbles bursting. TGS 1.0, the IB, boom, gone. Lindsay, Bree, Nick, Sam, Tessa, Jen, Maria, Ashley, boom, gone. Grade 12. For you tonight, the TGS bubble, boom, gone. These bubbles have burst, and I'm happy that they've burst, because I want them to burst, because bubbles are safe, and safe never got us anywhere. Courage and bravery did. So what are you really leaving behind? A fond memory, a friendship made, the familiarity of the tribe, stories for those that come after you, a blink in the eye of time. You're leaving the imprint you made, a difference in so many people's lives all over the world. There's always a little bittersweet taste in letting go of one thing to start another. Leaving one place to go somewhere else, leave a job, start a new school. There's always some hesitation or trepidation, the fear of the unknown. But there's also the excitement of something new and undiscovered. You're leaving, but there will always be a small thread, a small sliver of energy connecting you to TGS. Friendships, memories, lessons learned. And when you step outside of this TGS bubble, what's there? What are you moving towards? Excitement. New lives filled with curiosity, new lessons, new challenges, a whole new way of being. What could be better than that? New adventures, new opportunities to learn about the world, about other people, and especially about yourselves. And there'll be moments when you look back, and I hope you do so fondly. There'll be opportunities to come back, and I hope you take them often, because we want to know where life takes you. We want to know about the new bubbles that you surround yourself with and how you burst those to challenge yourselves. Just know, while in this TGS bubble, you have touched hearts all around the world. The world is a better place because of you. You've made people feel something. You've opened their minds, you've opened their hearts, and I hope you continue to do this in the new lives that you choose, in every moment, on every adventure, and with every breath you take. And then with every glass of champagne you drink, in every bubble bath that you take, I hope you stop and ponder, what bubble have I put myself in right now, and how can I get out of it? Good luck.
Now I am honored to introduce our keynote speaker for this evening, Christian Long, who is now in the TGS bubble. There he is. Christian is a co-founder at Wonder, a learning and design expedition. He's here tonight to discuss and explore the possibilities of learning in the future, something we all talk about quite a bit. He has founded Prototype Design Camp for Young Creatives and Be Playful, a collaborative design agency, with a master's and concentration in school design from the Harvard Graduate School of Education. Christian is an educational futurist and a passionate advocate for innovative learning communities. After meeting Christian just yesterday, I immediately felt his genuine presence and grounded energy, and I'm just so excited he's here to share that with us today. Please welcome Christian.
Good evening. To the students, first and foremost, your welcome a couple weeks ago transcends the ease of just being on Skype and asking some questions about what has caught your attention and why have you chosen this path. You've already had an impact on what I think about next. And more importantly, you've allowed one other person, I think Joann, you nailed it, to feel present and welcomed. So thank you. To the families and loved ones, so often a graduation is spoken of in terms of the young people or those on the threshold of where they head now. But in so many respects, this is a celebration of the promises that you've made. And on somewhat, it's a promise of what your young people are capable of and what they deserve. But most importantly, it's a promise that you'll go there with them without knowing how it's going to play out. As I was walking to join a taxi with a couple of new friends, members of the TGS community, I received a text from my wife who's at an event in Boulder, Colorado right now, and she said, I was just on the phone twice with our 9-year-old daughter. And Berkeley, who is 6.5 days into an 8-day vacation with her grandparents, who flew solo on 2 airplanes, including through the busiest airport in the United States by herself and had no problem. On day 6, became incredibly homesick. And so no matter what's possible in terms of pondering the future of education, or even imagining the obvious success and joy of your moments now, so often about being a loved one or a parent or an elder or grandparent is knowing there's nothing I can do for my 9-year-old right now, that she must see through this moment. And so for those of you who have invested, but more importantly, believe deeply in the unknown of what comes next, congratulations. 30 years ago this summer, I came to Spain. This is only my 2nd visit to Spain, so whatever it means to do things in these magical years of 10. 30 years ago, I was entering my senior year of high school and chose to move to Barcelona and then the Costa del Sol with an exchange student who spent his senior year with my family in the woods of Maine. And I was incredibly cocky and arrogant about that trip. And I spent most of that summer scared out of my mind and could not wait to get home to what was familiar. I was petrified. I was really well set up to believe I could get on that plane, because my entire life I had been set up to think that, of course. What I didn't understand is how to take that next step, how to become part of something bigger than me. It was a summer of wondering why Barcelona and the Costa del Sol and everyone I met, why they weren't adapting to what I needed in that moment. And I was not somebody that honored those relationships and those opportunities. And I was desperate to get home. And what I find so striking is that if I had been sitting on a stage like this with you tonight, and I wouldn't have been sitting with the confidence that I see, and I wouldn't have been able to speak in the last couple of weeks the way you did, speak your truths and the questions, I would have spoken in a much more naive way. I'm struck that I would have been wrong in every prediction I would have made about where I was going next and what I needed to do. It has taken me a long time to realize that not knowing was the gift. The difference is that for you to have the wherewithal to care and be curious the way that you've already represented to me, and I think you all know it even more so than I, to not know with your hand on a rudder, with your intention, with your willingness to look forward, it's going to make all the difference. I am incredibly grateful to be here. Last night at the symposium, and when I got off the plane, was very blurry, hadn't slept since a day and a half before, and was not in the finest form to small talk or to explain what I do, or I just was so grateful to be in a space that was rich with joy and rich with relationships, because I didn't need to be elegant in those ways. I didn't need to be graceful or to have proper answers. What I needed to do was just be in awe of the moments between those who are on stage doing things that even at this age, near 50, I wish I could do. And those who stood in front of something they had launched or were imagining was possible, that they had co-built or were just beginning to prototype. I just needed to be, and I was extremely grateful that that was the default setting, that was the starting point of understanding TGS. To be in that room, a room by default built from joy, a room full of relationships, and not just because of the convenience of being in the same place or places together, but because of people leaning in to the idea of being an ally. That the performance was extraordinary and that what was built was worthy of attention. What was more interesting is 30 seconds later, as people greeted each other and said, "I'm better for it." Thank you. So as a first-time visitor, thank you. That was a heck of a start. I'm interested because of one of you who mentioned the phrase, and I don't remember the exact prompt, the prompt wasn't important, but mentioned the idea of borders and horizons. That in some respects, part of what the TGS promise or provocation is to make sense of an eternal sense of borders and horizons, and that at the age of 18 or 17, on the precipice of whatever it means to be adult, we're all faking it and figuring it out. But whatever you perceive it can mean, that being in relation with borders and horizons is part and parcel of what TGS has gifted you and what you now own. I'm interested in that. I'm interested in that as a designer, what it means to design at the borderlands and what it means to design out of reach. I'm interested, more importantly, though, as human beings, how you embody both that precious third space between and how you reach for something that can't be named yet. So with that said, I'd like to hopefully not take too long. Someone with some body language, if I run close, start stretching the collar, start looking at your watch. I'm curious on 3 levels being with you today. As a visitor and stranger, I'm curious. As a father and educator, I'm equally curious. And as a designer and hopefully one day a creative ally, I'm also curious. Bilbao, as you may know, is only 700 years old in the most formal sense, so roughly the year 1300. No one to this day knows why it's named Bilbao. You could argue, as some have, that it means beautiful river way or beautiful river entrance. This idea, and it would only make sense given where we are, that the river, the salt water and the fresh water merging together, and the sense of both out to the Atlantic and then inward. Others have said it means from the Basque to stack, and from the Spanish mist, the idea of buildings stacking on the hillsides, and the idea of the mist of the ethereal. And if you've been to the Guggenheim and seen the mist coming out near the Jeffrey Koons exhibit, you could say, interesting. Maybe there's more to it than that. I'm interested in the idea as a stranger visitor to this space, both with you, because we're all relatively new here, to the idea of the Bilbao effect, this fact that someone by design could put something forward that changes everything. That whether it's a daydream or it's a hell yes, this must be done. And the truth is, no one could have known. Gary, as an architect, when he was given the commission to create something daring and innovative, it's the dream commission by an architect or whoever he or she is at the forefront of their craft. And it's almost never what the design brief asked for. But no one, including Gary, could have possibly known, including a city that put up 100 billion euro, 100 million euro, a euro, meaning the very currency of their existence, to put forward a museum that had never been imagined in a place that was not vibrant. It was laying fallow in many respects. No one could have understood what the Bilbao effect was, that it would change everything. And whether by accident or by design, we sit at that nexus. And that's interesting as a stranger. And in essence, TGS is another version of that. What the TGS effect is goes beyond the graduates, goes beyond the academic and curricular promises. It says once we exist, what can forever not go back? What is forever different? I'm curious about that, and when the building was designed soon after, Philip Johnson, one of the great architects of the last century, if not longer, said this is the most important building of our era. Another one described it as a fantastic dream ship. and somebody else described it as mercurial brilliance. And it's that last one that strikes me as relevant to TGS. The brilliance, your pedigrees are impressive. But in Shakespearean terms, Mercutio was always more interesting than Romeo. Mercutio spoke in a way that was not understood yet. That the museum could not be fully appreciated until it became the footprint that others created. That the enigma, the not knowing, the curiosity, the reaching beyond that bubble, that's the game. And I think for all of us in this room, and I mean that in a sort of proverbial sense, we are immensely gifted with privilege and responsibility. And it's not just you. All of us, if we're here, and to understand how to embrace that unknowing, but also to say, but in service of what? As a father and as an educator, I'm curious about one of your fathers who shared with you that at this moment, take time to reflect. And said to you as their child, take time to reflect on what's taken place till this moment. And I thought as a gift to my 9 or 11-year-old, I can only get it wrong if I fail to say at the right moment, take time and reflect. And you spoke about your son Alexander years after graduating and now entering graduate school, feeling the rush of not knowing what's supposed to happen next and the responsibility to live up to the gift. And as a mother, to simply say you've got time. That moment matters. And we can't do it for you. But I appreciate the father who knew at that moment, like many of you, that this moment is not to be rushed forward in order to know what happens next. With you over the last couple of weeks, you've helped me think about the following. You've helped me reappreciate what it means to be known in a place where you were not known. To feel that you are seen. And I think no school can accomplish more than to create the conditions for one another to be known and to be seen. We often rush through that to get done with the work we were called to do. What you recognized was the act of being known was most important. One of you said that you assumed you would become an expert in people, that by the time you graduated, that coming to TGS meant you would be knowledgeable in the ways of mankind. You would have access to the great insight about man and womankind. And you said what's been interesting for you over time is that it was less about becoming an expert in others, but recognizing how little you could assume about them. You all talked about the never-ending flow, the rush, the pace of experience. You never stop. You're living the great nomadic life. You're not a tourist. You are a traveler in the great tradition. But it also means you're untethered, and that's exhausting. And so it's one thing to be given access to the world. It's another thing to feel somehow connected to it along the way. You also talked about the subjectivity of the human experience, that instead of there being a version of what he or she does or how they do it, that the prism, the complexity was exhausting but marvelous. That as you gave yourself permission to take time, that not knowing but being ever curious was more important to you. Some of you spoke about commonalities, and one of you put it this way, that at first, early on, as a sophomore, junior perhaps, you saw that you had more in common with those you ran into. But over time, you realized that what you really had in common was that you were both distinct. And that understanding not only someone else's distinction, but also recognizing that you brought a layer of distinction to that, whether conversation or just to be present, and that what you had in common wasn't something shared, because that is the bubble. It's much easier to go, we've got this in common, so now I can relax and trust you. It's another thing to believe in the love and the gift of someone else because of your distinctions. Whether it's harder to honor your own or theirs is one of the great human challenges. But the dance between them is important. You spoke, and I thought this was one of the most important things. You said there wasn't a moment where you recognized where you were changing. You said it was an ever unfolding sense of shift in self. And I couldn't tell if you meant in the moment or just in hindsight. But what a powerful thing at such a young age, and I don't know that young is the important part of that, but at the front of the path, that you recognize the subtle shifts in your changes rather than these grand changes. That's a much bigger concept than I think I even recognized when you first said it. And I think it stayed with me for a reason. One of you towards the end of one of the conversations, and this is a totally appropriate thing for somebody at your point in life to ask, but I hope you never stop asking this one. You said, I'm not sure what I should be pursuing. You didn't say it in a discomfort, you said it in the sense of what should I pursue next. But it was more of a sense that you realized that that was the responsibility of what lies ahead, is to develop a relationship, a kinship, an allegiance with the idea of what must I pursue. And it's through the humility of service when you've been granted great privilege, or it's through just the sort of love affair with unknowing. It's a beautiful place to be. As I shift towards the end of this talk, I'm curious about the city with a mercurial name and this idea that you and we can't possibly know what you're supposed to do next. Tonight's been curated really beautifully. It's all going to be fake starting tomorrow. As a father, to take time to reflect and give you that permission means a different opportunity. It's how you create the conditions so that others will have the time to reflect. Whether it's your loved ones or those you are in a spiritual path with, whether they're clients or folks that you are serving through some mission that's deeper than what you do on your resume. The great design challenge, I believe, and in this personal case, I work with school leaders and communities like yours and students like yours around the world that are curious about how do we create the conditions where we go next. And the great design challenge is exactly what you said, and that is, what do we pursue? The easy thing is, how do we pull off the GPA? The easy thing is, how do we get them into the right universities? The easy thing is, how do we raise money? The easy thing is, how do we build? The easy thing is, how do we hire? One way or another, we'll solve all of these challenges as individuals and as communities and as folks who wonder about this at a fairly significant level. The design question is, how do we create the conditions to move in the right direction? Not to succeed necessarily, but to move in the right direction. The author of Le Petit Prince, or The Little Prince, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly, so, the guy that wrote The Little Prince, wrote about, if you want to build a ship, metaphor coming as ex-English teacher, if you want to build a ship, do not assign tasks. Between you and I, it means the spreadsheet of what you should do next is not the story. For those of us with responsibilities, put teams in motion, simply ask somebody to chop wood or to nail that wood and frame it, it's not the story. As he said, if you want to build a ship, help others long for the open expanse of the sea. That the point of putting a school together is not where you go to university. The point of saying yes to the invitation is not what will you study or which country will you be in. It's, are you going to give yourself permission? Will you do so for one another, and then collectively to create the conditions to long for the open sea? To not know what to pursue, but to own that question. I'm curious, and it's the reason I asked you several weeks ago what you were curious about. As a business owner, I never look at your resume. I couldn't care less about your resume, your GPA. I couldn't care less most times about your portfolio. Almost never will it be the reason I say yes to hiring, or more importantly, to investing in you. I couldn't care less. And I think we live in a day and age where we're on the borderland of, here's the paper, here's the proof, here's the path, and instead, here's what I'm pursuing, how might we team up? And as a business owner, as an investor, as an academic, as whatever you might be in a position, or as the novice, as the first time in that organization, the person saying, take me seriously. What makes you curious is infinitely more valuable to the organization and the relationship than what you have done. You have done something extraordinary to sit on those stools today. It will never be taken away from you. And it won't be what you talk about next. What you will talk about next will be in response to somebody else's body language when you can tell they want to know more about what you're curious about. And what you shared with me via Skype and email and a little bit yesterday. And what you have shared, and what everyone that I've met that sits in the front row and several of the other rows, what I suspect with the families and alums and loved ones, is that this is a community of mad curiosity. This is not a community that's simply checking the boxes. As a designer, and this is nearly the end of what I want to share with you, I don't care what we're asked to solve or design. The building is the easy part if we've been asked to design a physical campus. The curriculum, the PR campaign, whatever the thing is incredibly easy. What matters more is if we do so because we're curious about the people we're designing for, or more importantly, designing with. And if I can leave you just one thing, and I don't know that I've offered any advice, and I've been trying to stay clear of that, because you'll join all of us in not knowing soon. And we're gonna hopefully figure it out together. But if there's one bit of advice I can offer you as you move into academia or a gap year times 10, or whatever relationship sets up the next relationship, and whether it's humble or grand, is that the greatest question that you can ask is why. The next 4 questions you should ask are why. Why? 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 That if you can do anything for your partners, your clients, your loved ones, and strangers, and more importantly, that last group, is to become very, very good at asking the question why over and over and over again, and for one simple reason: you have no idea why you're asking, and they have no idea what you're looking for. In the first why, they will give you an answer, and it's fairly predictable, and it's what you will expect. And most of us will be polite and stop at that moment. The second why, they'll become slightly defensive, but assume you just need clarification because you weren't listening. The third why, they will become defensive and pissed and wonder why they're being kept in this moment. The fourth why, they're going to be mystified, and on a good day, lean into the real question. On a bad day, just thrown off. The fifth why is where you figure out why you asked. And they begin to figure out what they were meant to offer. And I think as a designer, what we build is irrelevant. Figuring out how to ask the right why is why we get to show up. On my wrist, I have a copper bracelet that I made at Idlewild, a boarding art school in California, vertically above Palm Springs. And I spent a couple summers with my family working with the school. And we embedded in the community for a week as a family because I didn't know how to help them. But I knew that if I could spend time with them, that I could discover something that they were in love with. And what I discovered along the way is that I was curious about being an artist, that I wanted to. And on this bracelet made out of copper, which stains my wrist, turns it green, is a T.S. Eliot quote. And I brought it out a couple of weeks ago in anticipation of coming here, and I've been sitting with it. As T.S. Eliot wrote, "We shall not cease exploration. And the end of our exploring will be to arrive where we began and to know it for the first time." As I say thank you one more time to you, and you're an extraordinary group. And these folks have dreamed heavily on your behalf and can't wait to see where they go next with you. If we do it right, we come back home, we come back to our friendships as alums you are now, and at best, we begin to understand the question we discovered along the way. I'm grateful to be here with you, and as that kid 30 years ago from now came to Spain for the first time and had no business being here, I'm incredibly grateful to be back, and more importantly, to see other young people on the precipice. You're a gift, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Thank you.
What a gift. Thank you very much, Christian. Every year we have our seniors nominate one student to speak on their behalf. And this year, the class has spoken. I would like to introduce the man, the myth, the legend, El Kojo, to the stage.
Sorry. Phone's a bit frozen. See, the thing is, I don't really have stage fright, but like, I still don't like this. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Joann. And yeah, good evening, everyone, and welcome to TGS's last IB commencement. So yeah. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank all our friends and parents who are here today. You've traveled far and wide today, and without you guys, we would not be here, and we would have never had this opportunity. So this is the most important thing you could have given us, and I'd like to thank you for that specifically. So, yeah. And to staff and alumni and Wacky 2.0 crew. I also wanted to shout you guys out and thank you for making us who we are and sharing this whole experience with us. And actually would not be the same whatsoever without any of you, so thank you. And last and not least, I'd love to thank these lovely 13 people sitting on the stage for giving me the profound honor of leading us on our last little trip together as we say goodbye to all the fun times, the amazing great dinners, which were very chaotic, and all the experiences that made us who we are. So, thank you. Speech time. Yeah. So, with most young people, we have the amazing honor and the luck to have distance and time not be an issue for us. We have Facebook and Snapchat, and so moving on from here, we're not really saying goodbye to each other. We're just momentarily saying goodbye to this idea of the grade 12 class and all the memories that we've had. And so yeah, we're not saying goodbye to Hernandez's solutions anytime soon. Hopefully we're never gonna say goodbye to Eden singing loudly in the hallway. So yeah, I believe that this commencement is actually just us moving on from this collective identity that allowed us to circumnavigate like multiple metro stations and airports that were really busy with all 14 of us with like multiple bags, which is not the smartest idea, but still did it. I think we're saying goodbye to the opportunity to spend multiple times on beach shores and little hotels, enjoying each other's company, sharing stories, and just enjoying our lives and the present. We're saying goodbye to the fact that whenever we do have a great dinner, I've mentioned great dinner a lot of times, I'm sorry. Whenever you do have a great dinner, that it always ends up to be two people who end up doing it, sometimes Polly, sometimes Andrew, sometimes Oskar. And at the end of the day, we always manage to find the best way to fit 14 people in the smallest restaurants, so that's cool. One of the first memories that I have when it comes to the idea of our grade is when our principal and fearless leader, Russell Cayley, told us, well, this is vaguely quoting him, I hope you make it, and we believe in you. And when Kaylee mentioned that, it brought about a few memories of yesteryear's tensions and issues and all the things that make this experience what it is, the imperfect curves that we all go through to come to this point. And I remember the great meetings we had in Cusco where we all shared our stories and cried and thought about the scary future that may come to us. But I mostly remember these moments when Kaylee gave that little short piece of advice, because it was the moment in which we had a decision to make as a grade, and it was our first test as a group of people. We were aware of all the challenges ahead of us. We were going to be alone, we were going to be with each other for a lot of time, and we're going to do one of the most hardest academic challenges in the world. And the reason why I remember this so fondly is because we decided, as a very massive cliche, to stick together and make sure that no matter what happened, that we would make every moment count, and that we would solve all our problems as a grade. To me, this talking about my grade is quite the cliche, because this speech to me is a love story. Because when I think of how we did surmount these problems and overcome all these obstacles, I think of 14 strangers, very different personalities, very kooky, who've all managed to make it past the line through all the breakdowns and all the triumphs and all the successes. We were once 9 people. At some point we were 16. But these 14 people have shown me that these 14 people have shown me that commitment and strength and understanding each other and loving each other can get you through anything in life. When I think about how we made it through how we not only made it through the past 2 years, but made it the best 2 years of my life, I think of the fact that in those meetings that we had in the past, and in those moments of weakness and scariness, we decided as a collective, non-verbally, but just within just eye contact and just feeling ourselves, that we were going to make this experience and this travel represent the shining idea of TGS that we believe we wanted it to be, to make it the experience that would build us and mold us, and that we would actually interact with the world that we applied to the school to see. And the 3 ways in which we accomplished this, three-way paragraph essay thing, yeah. It's effective. So yeah, we did it. We did it through our initiative, our strength, and our courage. And when I think about our initiative, I look back to the days in which, most of us being new, almost everyone in our grade filled in those rooms in MUN and debated hard as if we've known each other for years. I look back to those moments in Banfield when, on our first We Explore alone together and just us, we decided that no matter what, we would not let anything get between us. And we studied everything that we had to, because we had class on the We Explore. We saw each other through the 6 stomachs on the bus on the shaky boat and the shaky boats. And we sat in silence and enjoyed the clear blue skies and the fluorescent algae off the North Atlantic Sea. When I think of initiative, I think of the fact that no matter what challenge came to us, no matter how stressful it came to, we all knew how to take the time to chill out, grab a taco bueno in Morocco, just have an amazing moment in the moment that we were in. I don't think each We Explore is an amazing event, but with this grade, even when I'm not on their We Explores, I know that we did our best to make them our We Explores, that we took the moment to make sure that everyone was happy. And that's one thing that I think resonates with every TGS student, and we decided to never let that go, no matter what circumstances were around us. Through every long hike in Urubamba that we had to painfully go through, I remember all the new students, as enthusiastic as ever, going through the IB, deciding to sign up for almost all of them. And I remember even when we had the opportunity to kick and punch each other as much as we could during Brad's lessons, that we still managed to keep it a bit light. Although Oskar and I did fight quite heavily, but it was like so yeah. And so and when it comes to initiative, after that, after making the effort to make these moments special, it takes real strength to make them memories, and that's the next quality that this grade has in abundance. We pulled our straps together and we worked through the weeks of hell when it came to the art exhibitions, to the EEs, to the TOK essays, which we kind of submitted like a week after, but whatever. When football was impossible to manage and the Moroccan government just refused to let me play on their football pitches. I remember Chloë coming out with me for 2 hours, like trying to translate stuff in Spanish. I remember being able to wait on Oskar, Paula, and almost everyone to be there to play football with me, even if they didn't want to. And I think that shows just not only the initiative, but the strength of character that we have to brace the challenges that we accept. Yeah, and after putting in the strength to make all these events memories, we have the courage to face new challenges whenever they come up again. When it comes to drag racing in Vancouver for LGBT awareness, Andrew, Elliot, and myself did not spare any details in making ourselves look as fabulous as possible. When it came to mechanical bull riding in Madrid, weeks before our final exams, we still had the courage to ride on that bull, and I'm like, yeah. and yeah, we cliff jumped like a week before this, and like we didn't really care, so like that's pretty courageous as well. So yeah. And so yeah, through all the tears and laughs and love, I feel as if through all these activities and all these moments of strength and growth, I can confidently say, at least for me, that we have built a memory and a legacy that we do see as that shining idea of what TGS can be. From anime loving and vermin skinning Jenna Rice to to the future 500 billionaire roaming the streets of Vancouver or Sydney or Singapore, Cayman Martin Burnett. To the babyface, wild, adventurous poster boy Elliot Weir. To the smirky and always thoughtful Chloë Fraser. To the stunning and ever sassy Karsha Uvas. To the warmest and loveliest Aussie I've ever known, Cheeto. I'm really sorry. I tried. To the life advice specialist, Mr. Pablo Hernández. And to his ever-present life partner, Andrew. To the most amazing person I've ever met, Paula Shandosa. And to the warmest friend I've ever had, Eden Henry. And also on our behalf, to the tech god Tashimar. The ever musical Sam Nelson. The always optimistic Jen. The sassy and ever passionate ecological explorer Jared Voitila, and his stern and graceful accomplice Tessa Sieberts. To the radical Emma, who's always warning us about how we're gonna fail but pass at the same time. To the warm and firm kindness of Matt Wolfgram, and the open ears of Alexa Wolfgram. To the youthful laughs and energy of Phil Horton. To the and to oh shoot, I mixed them up. And Asif's beautiful heart that warms us to this day. And Guillermo's encompassing open mind and heart that still challenges us to be better people today. And to our stringent Commander-in-Chief, Russell Cayley, and the one we'll probably miss the most, Breanna Reynolds. And also, very special, this is on my part, to a special shout out to Nicholas Martino for making me both love myself and this school, Jamie Steckart for managing to run this school, and Lizzie Clark for making me a part of this school. Yeah. On the behalf of all of us, and with your help, I'd like you to welcome the last graduating class of TGS 1.0, the Troublemakers, the class of 2018. I give Oscar's thing? Oh, okay. I kind of thought there would be a video, but it's okay. Oskar Klownowski. When I thought about writing your speech, I knew that we'd been through a lot together, and I knew that you're probably one of the people that's meant the most to me. When I think back of a friendship that really matters to me, I think back to fun times with Elliot, crazy adventures with Jonah, and the support and love that you've always given me, man. I look back to our times in Sweden and in England, when after having a rutsch patch, having a terrible phone experiment under a pool which did not work, and feeling a bit down on myself, I remember in Sweden all those nights that we spent together, and amongst all the hard feelings I gave myself, I remember I could always count on Oskar to pick me up and make me feel like I was a part of the school again. I remember all our times in Cusco, with all the advice you'd give me and all the fun times we'd have and the crazy dinners we'd always go out on. I look back to our rooftop music chill session in Vancouver, A$AP Rocky, good time. And I look back on the times where we always shared jokes, had late night conversation, and you'd always be the one friend that I knew that I could tell anything to, and that you would always keep it with you forever. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present to you Oskar Klownowski.
Very close-minded and very energetic and over-aggressive child. So I think I've come a long way over the 4 years. It's the things that frustrate you inside that cause you to really make change, and I think TGS makes you aware of some of the things in the world that are not okay. You become a lot more aware of who you are through the experiences of TGS, and especially that TGS has the tradition of reflecting, which is very deeply rooted into every TGS student. So I was able to, over the 4 years, I think I was able to reflect a lot more on who I am through what I do on a daily basis, and hopefully would be the better version of myself. As an individual, although you might not have the ability to change the world entirely and affect everyone, it's the chain effect of you as an individual changing what you do and how you think that has the ability to kind of infect. But I for sure have become more aware of the possibility to make the most change with the skills you have.
The most recent memory that will help me best describe Helen is one of our grade on a cliff jumping cliff that Kojo mentioned in Portugal just about a week ago. Well, we were following a path of jumps that gradually got higher and higher. Out of the 5 jumps, by the time we reached the 4th, only 6 of us remained. And the majority of us were struggling with stepping to the edge. Most of us were overwhelmed by the cold water. Nevertheless, after Helen made the 4th 8 meters tall jump, I remember her swimming back to the surface with her eyes closed, mouth and ears full of salty water. She popped out to the surface and shouted, "Yeah!" Helen has the unique ability to set things aside, enjoy, and commit to the moment. With her energetic and positive attitude, she unintentionally infects everyone around her with enthusiasm and happiness. She's endlessly passionate and from time to time determined. Helen's always happy to participate in all activities, flexible and mildly crazy in the best way. But Helen's most powerful characteristic, however, is the ability to genuinely enjoy the small things in life. A fresh lemonade, an empty seat on the subway, or the salt on breakfast. With the most friendly and attracting personality, Helen is the most upholding friend any of us could have hoped for in this class. And I have no doubt that you will conquer what the future holds in your own unique way. I must point out she has been waiting for this moment for quite a while now. So therefore I present to you Helen Eugenia Ramos Nufio.
The reason I wanted to come to TGS was adventure, and I definitely got it. What's very important about the TGS journey, we visited all these countries, but living in those countries at the age I was, and growing up in those countries, because we lived there for a good couple of months, they just add to your life experience. So, because in India we saw poverty, we saw amazing parades of gods, and we also saw the biggest house, the most expensive house, all in the same city. And then we've gone to Canada, we've seen a community that's very much egalitarian. And then also in Peru, walking and hiking, right? I think it gives you a sense of what the world is like, and it really opens your eyes to all the injustices and how we can move towards a more egalitarian society. And I'm really grateful for this experience. So.
So for the past 2 years, I have had the fortune and pleasure of learning that Paula is an extraordinary person. She is wise beyond her years. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry, don't cry. And definitely one of the kindest persons this world could ever hold. Everything she does it with such passion. It inspires people, and it for sure has inspired me probably to just become a better version of myself. Just by being around her, you can notice and feel that her energy is just otherworldly, and it has this like power to soothe all the wounds you have. Even if you don't have any wounds, it just feels so good being around her, because she's just so good and positive, and she irradiates that positivity, right? Paula, a Disney lover, Aries, my best friend. I am grateful for the 2 years that we have spent together. We started this journey rooming together in Urubamba, and you have had such a huge impact in my life. I never thought I would come to be such a close friend with you. I wish you all the best, and without further ado, the next person to graduate, Paula Cendoya.
First foremost, leaving my family behind, that was definitely my biggest challenge. I always felt like when you have something really, really good, a good, really nice and great opportunity in front of you, you're also leaving behind something very special. So just going out there to the world by myself with a complete group of strangers that I have never met, that was definitely a challenge. And I think that my first semester was key because I realized the importance of making good friends within the community so that they could help me and be my support, and I could start sort of to detach from my family. To whoever is going to apply to TGS or to whoever is going to embark in a project that requires like a lot of courage, like leaving home and your friends behind, definitely that it's worth it, that you need to get out of your comfort zone in order to learn valuable experiences. I think TGS, again, it has given me this comfort that now I know I can adapt myself to different environments. And I feel comfortable, I know I can deal with it, I trust myself, I know I have the abilities and the skills to solve the problems. So I think that TGS has definitely taught me to believe in myself more, to trust my instincts, and yeah, just to be a risk taker out there in the world, not fearing that much.
It is only fair to introduce my dearest friend with a poem about her grace. So here's to you, Chloë Fraser. What is love? She will ask. Are we spoiled? She will say. And then she will immediately apologize. But even then it is evident, for the good and not so good listeners, that curiosity drives Chloë in this crazy world full of amazing places. She doesn't take up a lot of space, but her questions fill up the air. Even if you don't like what you have just said, she nods, stares, and cares, and makes you understand that your words indeed matter. And if the sun is not sunny, or the rain is too wet, if the corners are broken and there is a big mess, I have some new questions, she will state. And with her special magic, she will make that cold, cold wet day turn happy again. Sometimes she's lost in her own thoughts, but what else could you expect from a very old soul, a very wise mind, and an even more kind smile? Right now she shines with bright eyes, in a white and red dress made only for her. But before she comes to the stage, I must say, we live in the world our questions create, and by now you probably know that this girl has a world of her own. Perfectly imperfect, what makes it unique, it's a young girl named Chloë. And maybe, if you're lucky like me, she will invite you for tea.
My favorite part about being a TGS student is that it makes me feel like I am completely alive. Like I'm always doing something or feeling something or talking to somebody, and that what I'm doing is of worth and that I'm growing as a person because of it. I mean, people in the school have inspired me in a number of different ways with what they do, with what they say, with how they help me. but also the strangers that you meet along the way can definitely teach you things just if you ask them a simple question, if you ask them about what keeps them going, what wakes them up in the morning, why they do what they do because they care about their family or their career, the choices they made, the mistakes they made, what they hope to teach to young people. If you ask questions, you'll get answers, and you can always take something from them. After the strange and wonderful and sometimes just exhausting experiences I've had in TGS, I find it hard to imagine what would come my way that would completely surprise me. I feel comfortable approaching pretty much anything.
Today we'll be talking about Muhammad Wajahat Mirza. And after 2 years, I still can't pronounce his name. He's commonly known as Waji. He is a halal-only, omnivorous creature native to Pakistan. Waji is a needy, stubborn, moody, and theatrical individual. In fact, he'll probably give me a long theatrical sermon for saying all of these obvious things about him. But the truth is that his faults, more often than not, make him more likable. People are charmed, almost despite themselves, by the fact that he is consistently over the top. But Waji is also consistently there for me and for those privileged enough to call him a friend. He's also consistently, always, kind, generous, forgiving, caring, tenacious, witty, and warm. I mean, sometimes he complains so much that I forget how much he's actually gone through and the challenges he's really, truly faced. Because his life hasn't been the easiest. He's constantly bubbling with plans, ideas, and projects, and ready to drag you here or there, out of your bed, anywhere you're not ready for. He's what we call extra. Whether the extra is buying you an entire cheesecake for your birthday, or hopping onto a mechanical bull without asking questions to make others laugh, or even dreaming of a day where he can build his own school from scratch, and or become Prime Minister of Pakistan. And nobody forgets the special day he stood up and declared that nothing is impossible. Because the word itself spells, I am possible. It's become such a fond memory for a class that it's almost cliche, but honestly it represents who he is as a person. And when it comes to you, Waji, I truly believe that nothing will be impossible if you set your mind to it. I hope that all the doors open to you, and that once they do, you get the visas to cross through them. Wait, but I'm not done! I am so damn grateful to have you in my life, and I think all of us as a class wish you the absolute best because you deserve it. Thank you.
I always had that innate desire of seeing the world and traveling around the world. When I was young, I read the book Around the World in 180 Days, and that just stayed in my mind forever. This was a radical, I would say a radical or like an extreme change for me. Coming from a village of like where I lived for 16, 17 years of my life, a village that's like very conservative, and just coming to a society which is like everyone is different and everyone comes from a different background with a different story. when I was back home and I had that opaque view, I was conservative, I was okay, Islam is this way and then the world is against us. But then when I came here and I realized that, okay, no, there are people who don't practice Islam, but they still have more understanding than maybe what I do have. It made me feel that world is beautiful and people of this world could be understood if you open yourself and if you try to understand yourself. Right now I'm in a state of denial that I'm not graduating. It's fine, like it's still far away, but I mean, I'm very excited for the place I'm going after TGS, but at the same time, leaving TGS will be a very sweet, sour experience.
Pablo Hernández. Dear Pablo, whenever I sat down to write this speech, I found it hard to find words that would represent you as a person, showing how difficult it is to paint in words what you mean to me and are great. Part of it is your dynamic personality, but part of it is me who is too scared to admit that today will be our last day living together. When I sift through memories with TGS, I feel your presence in each one of them. Pablo, we have spent 2 years together, fasting in Ramadan to cycling through Peace Memorial Park every morning. From walking through Medina of Marrakesh to playing ping pong at 3 a.m. From taking post-bed check 7-Eleven trips before pulling those all-nighters in Hiroshima, to roasting and laughing at each other's mistakes so hard that our stomachs would wrinkle with pain. We have bonded ourselves in a relation of brothers. When my Indian visa got denied, and I had to spend 4 long months away from TGS doing online learning, I started to lose hope and purpose of my life. But you were there. Pablo, you were there to hear me out and give a Pablo talk that would boost my spirit and raise my morale to fight against all the odds. No way would I have survived that phase of my life without you. So mi hermano, thank you. Thank you for all that you have taught me and for all that I have learned from you. My TGS journey would not have been the same without your satya, unwavering support, and brotherly love. I won't be able to pay back in 1,000 lifetimes. I'm sad that we won't go through all the challenges together in future. But remember, you're gonna excel in life and make all of us proud, just the way you have done so far. To an amazing future and lifelong friendship, Pablo Hernández-Matos.
My first semester at TGS started in Brighton. When I first arrived, I didn't know what was going on at all. Like, I didn't know what they were speaking, what they were talking about. I couldn't understand accents very well. My English level was disastrous. I didn't even want to talk. I didn't see myself, or like at the beginning at least, with enough capabilities to continue the 3 years at TGS, but in the end everything worked out and now we're here. So the beauty of TGS is also that it gives you that opportunity of traveling and really living and experiencing a place. So your preconceived notions and stereotypes about those places kind of start falling. That enriching part of it is something that I've really enjoyed. I don't think that you can ever say thank you enough, especially when it's an opportunity like this. I'm so grateful for having been given this opportunity as a teenager, there's people in Spain that will never get to travel as much as I have in this past 3 years, and not only Spain, but anywhere in the world. So that gratefulness, I think, has to be shown, and here I think this is a perfect place to do it.
Andrew, throughout the last few days, I've been wondering how to share a glimpse of what you mean to those around you and to me. To do that, I thought that I would start with the first interaction we ever had in that small room in Brighton, in the United Kingdom. It was our first day at TGS, and all new students had gone to have breakfast besides me, obviously, thus missing it. Andrew came into the room, introduced himself, and said, "I saved you some pancakes." That action, Andrew, says so much about you. You're one of the most caring, attentive, and compassionate individuals that I have ever known. Whether that be through constant support to the community, through presiding the student council, late night deep talks, or early morning coffee chats, your passion and ambition knows no boundaries. Sorry. Your openness, curiosity, and your thirst for new experiences is something that I truly admire. Whether that be through writing thoughtful political essays, getting to know each and every one of us here deeply, or even signing up for a knitting club in India. Beyond that, I've seen the beauty with which you approach life, your honesty, integrity, and perseverance. And let me tell you, it's contagious. I'm confident you'll continue to inspire those around you, no matter where you are. And hopefully, they will look up to you, like I've done for the past 3 years. I don't even have to mention your maturity, because people have already been confusing you for a teacher throughout your TGS experience. Finally, I could not have asked for a better companion throughout this journey, and I would never, never trade that. With love, honor, and admiration, ladies and gentlemen, Andrés de la Sierra Renier.
No matter how much we do learn within the classroom, some of the, I guess most thought-provoking, some of the biggest learning I've done has just been in country through the people I've been meeting. You take a little bit from everyone you meet along the way, I think, and as time goes on, all these little things become a reflection of who you are, and just kind of us being a collection of the people and the things we see. I think that's my favorite thing. It's important to take note of why we travel. We don't come to these different countries just to take from them and see the beautiful things that they have to see, eat the great food that the countries have, and just meet the people. But it's to then learn from that, take it home and share it, or apply it somewhere else. And I think that's a really important thing to know. If you're able to help your community back home, a few groups of friends, like even just one individual, you've made a difference. And it's that idea. It's this change that we're enacting, it doesn't have to be on a massive scale. It's little by little through the people you meet in your life. It makes a difference. No matter how little that positive change is, we should continue doing that.
Fellow David Attenborough loving friend. With TGS coming to an end, I've had a lot of time to reflect on what you meant to me these past few years, especially when writing your introduction. With each country we've been able to share together, I always draw something new that sets you apart from that wide-eyed, photo-taking Kiwi that I first saw on the TGS webpage when applying to the school. In the UK and Sweden, I was introduced to your genuine kindness with how you treated all of your classmates, especially me, a bumbling new student to your grade. In Bosnia, you showed me what it meant to put yourself in someone else's shoes by the way you asked questions and sought out answers. In Italy, we laughed and cried some more, whenever we attempted to be artists at the garden outside of our residence. During my second year at TGS, one of my biggest regrets is not growing closer to you. I hope that you know that we know how difficult things were, and I'm sorry that I wasn't always there to help you. However, finally this year in India, I had the honor to have you as a roommate, whether it be through watching Vox documentaries late at night, impulsive room service orders, or Mike Tyson murder mysteries. Thank you for being an amazing roommate. It took me until Japan to realize that what made Elliot so important to our grade was not his drive for orgasm and activities, but instead his love of sharing the memories with people around him. So with that, we're here in Spain, finally graduating, and I can't imagine what you're gonna get up to, but I know that next year I'll miss you. Thank you for everything, and keep on being you. With that, I'll leave it there.
The TGS community is definitely something that you don't realize how unique it is until you sort of compare it with literally any other high school environment. It was hard initially to realize how unique of a community it is. It's an immensely caring and cooperative and just a really, really cohesive community that supports each other in a way that outside of maybe my family, I can't see anywhere else. Before TGS, I was probably one of the most disorganized people that I knew. The structure and organization, for example, planning trips was definitely beneficial to me, figuring out how I want to give back and make those contributions back to the communities and the environment that I've learned so much from. If I started thanking people, the grad video would be a couple of hours long, and I don't want to do that, but literally anyone I've ever interacted with for the past 4 years. Thank you.
Firstly, be sure to wish Jenna a big happy birthday after the ceremony, as she turns 18 in a couple of hours. Jenna and I have a lot in common. In her first year in TGS, she dyed her hair a shade that some might consider ginger. And in doing so, doubled the amount of ginger kiwis at TGS. We also both feel at home in the wilderness, although whilst I'm content with a walk, everyone in the grade knows the epic story of Jenna killing a goat, ripping out its innards, putting her belongings inside the goat, and tying the goat around her shoulders as a backpack.
What could I do to even properly describe you? What words could I possibly say to describe Eden Henbury and what she means to me and to all of us in only like a minute and a half, give or take? I suppose Eden is very much like a Disney princess. And the obvious correlation would be her beautiful voice, but more than that, I find it's her infectious attitude. When Eden is happy, the world smiles and seems to shine a little brighter. I'm not exaggerating. Little animals come up habitation, the sun comes out, and she sings to us all, and we all go a little bit brighter, and we're all happy. She provides a tranquil solace and a dependability that is of utmost necessary to all of us in this grade, in this school. It's impossible to not yield to her blinding optimism and force of personality, which can manage to melt away even the most cynical hearts, such as mine. Simply being around Eden has taught me so much about myself. She demonstrates how through fortitude and patience and compassion, and she showed me how trusting and openness are not signs of weakness, but are actually the greatest form of strength a person can have. It is easy to be jaded and cynical about the world. It is far more courageous to live life with enthusiasm and hope and gentleness and warmth like I see Eden display every day at the school. And Eden is brave. I still remember our first night at TGS, bunking together like we did last night. When you told me you'd never even left New Zealand before, barely traveled out of Nelson, your small town of 42,000 people, which we all have heard so much about now. I thought at that time you were naive, crazy, maybe a little bit out of your depth. But here, now, I realize you're just awesome and way ahead of me. You didn't need anything before this. Because that's the thing about Eden. Once she sets her sight on something, very little will ever be able to stop her. And I'm so glad for that, because the world needs more Eden Henbury. And I'm sure this is not the last time any of us will hear her name. I admire you, I adore you, and I love you. I think I speak for everyone whose lives you've touched, as well as all those who have the pleasure of meeting you in the future when I say, we are truly, truly richer for having known you, my friend. And I'm gonna miss you so much. Eden Henbury.
Iconic. New Zealand's quite small and my hometown is way smaller, so growing up I always wanted to leave and see the world and just generally understand how people live in other cultures, because that's how you form empathy and you understand the world, and I was just always curious, so I guess that's what affected me and what led me to apply for TGS. You travel to understand the world, to understand people, to see how they live, their cultures, the music they listen to, the food they eat, their history, to understand them. And that's what I'm really interested in. I think that's the common unit that binds everyone together at TGS, is our curiosity of the world and our need to understand it and see how we can help people. I think gratitude is a really big part of TGS. A lot of people, well, especially for me, being grateful for what you have, that's something I've definitely learned, and I had to leave my home country to come back and see how beautiful it is and see how lucky I am to live there. And that's definitely what TGS has taught me, is that being grateful for what you have and understanding how lucky you are is super important, and making that clear to the people around you, especially the people at TGS who make it what it is, the staff, Joann, who set up TGS and gave us this opportunity.
Thank you, Jenna. Okay. With Kashavies. When I look at this beautiful woman, I see a girl I have known since she had very short hair and I had an unfortunately large fringe. I see my closest of friends, who I've been lucky enough to know for the past 3 years. Someone who, no matter how many obstacles were thrown in her way, has survived and thrived at TGS for 4 years. Despite appearances, Kashavies is not only a sweetie, she is a smart, savage, and sassy individual, and an amazing friend who will fight fearlessly for her strong beliefs. Words that define Uti are ones such as hardworking, passionate, feminist, resilient, and caring. We were brought together by a love of music and one of the best bands ever. And since then, we have shared so many memories, encouraging each other to explore Stockholm, running around in the snow of the Arctic Circle, surviving the flooding of Venice, the crazy, crazy, amazing hot chocolate of Sarajevo, our overconsumption of pasta, pizza, and gelato in Florence, bird watching, and you know what I mean, crazy noodle box adventures in Vancouver, and just generally providing a huge amount of relief and support during times of stress, especially exams. Udi, someone who pushes herself so much and expects so much of herself that I've often felt inclined to remind her to stop for a minute, take a break from the work, just breathe. She is the most hardworking person I've ever met. I honestly love her. Okay. She can never resist the chance to fight for what's right, to fight for her strong beliefs about gender, race, sexuality, equality. She's taught me so much. It is really hard to explain, but the Kashavies is the kind of person who can make you totally rethink your view of the world with just a few words. She has contributed and influenced myself as an individual and the community as a whole to such an extent that I'm sure she has left ripples in her wake. And I know she will go on to do so many great things. I'm so proud and so lucky to have you in my life, and I'm forever grateful for your absolutely astounding advice. You know what I mean? Thank you so much. Thank you for everything, sweetie. Mujhe tumse pyar hai. I love you.
Applying for TGS was a big chance. That's just changed everything around for me. I just can't contemplate what would happen if I never encountered. I think it was a very lucky and amazing encounter that I've had. In India, women are not really supposed to have strong opinions or strong dreams or desires. And I think if TGS wasn't there, I would just go along with the flow with what the textbooks told me or what the news told me was right. But here, TGS has given me the opportunity to actually think as a person and not think of what other people make of you. of female identity is very broad and beautiful. And I think TGS has made me realize that because I saw so many women around the world, and I've just taken my time to appreciate how like wonderful we are and how strong we are. Once you go in, you're like, oh, it's 3 years, but it's gone in the blink of an eye. And I think that if you come here, remember to appreciate every single moment that you have here with the people around you, because it's very rare that you're gonna find an opportunity like this again. Phone in here. I just don't know. Okay. It is simply very hard for someone to hold a distinct and significant position in your life. For instance, you have a friend, a mother, a teacher, and they each serve a different role and purpose. Well, that's what I thought until I met Jenna. I still vaguely remember when she and I were roomed together for a whole 2 days and 14 hours in Vancouver. We were jet lagged. I was pretending to sunbathe in front of a rain-tinted window. We had only eaten a packet of Tim Tams in 8 hours. I'm sorry. Only eaten a packet of Tim Tams in 8 hours, and that is when the weirdest thing happened. She came up to me with gourmet enchiladas and do you want to watch RuPaul's Drag Race with me? Now, I did not know how she just presented a gastronomic magnum opus out of thin air, or who RuPaul was for that matter. But in a haze, I said yes, and that was the day I possibly made the best decision I could ever have. Chida, with a selfless heart and her generally caring and loving self, has brought nothing but happiness and so much self-confidence and self-acceptance in a rather insecure me. We all seek for certain qualities in our friends and family, and she with her kind and ardent personality, and a friendship that encompasses worldwide wisdom, #woke commentaries, heavy eatens, and you need to sleep more than 4 hours, late night knitting and lollies and wine compilations, rants and banters, heartwarming love, harsh yet foolproof advice, everlasting support, and so much more, is someone who's not just my friend nor a relative, but a treasured bond that even though I can't attach a label to, holds a very special place in my heart. I'm confident that wherever she goes and whoever she meets would be as lucky, if not even more fortunate, to have such a powerful, fierce, inspiring, and beautiful woman in their lives. She, with her lack of hesitation to passionately and wholeheartedly love and cherish you, would help you grow into someone who, you like me, could never have imagined. Chiranako Ngama, you have made my TGS journey what it is today. And for several experiences and relationships to come, I would not trade you for anybody or anything in the whole entire world. So go out there, create a change, and I will see you soon on international television as an actor or prime minister or duchess or ambassador or whoever you decide to be by tomorrow morning. For the not really final time, I love you. I never gonna stop loving you. It's my utmost honor to present to you Chiranako Ngama.
For me, my biggest challenge was definitely becoming independent. I've always, not necessarily been sheltered, but I've never really had to do anything for myself before I came to TGS, and stepping into that role where you're in charge of your own life can be a bit daunting when you're a teenager. And it did take some time, but I was supported by my teachers and my friends to like get to that point where I can, know what I'm doing and be confident with myself. It's kind of impossible to thank people at TGS because there's just such a long list of staff and students and people we meet in the host countries who do stuff for us. I feel like I've gained so many lessons, like life lessons and just new concepts about the world, and I just want to share them as much as I can because I know how much that the experiences that TGS has helped me. So if I want to do anything, it's give those back to other people as well.
Born in Japan. Raised in Singapore, repping Australia and Canada, Cayman Christopher Martin Burnett has seemingly filmed lifetimes of learning, growth and travel into his 2 years at TGS. What Kay and I share is a series of moments that I just can't categorize. This young social entrepreneur and I have created so many unforgettable memories on all but one continent. We ruined our Timberlands getting lost in the dusty streets of Urubamba, sang Frank Ocean in a new and innovative time signature in Rabat, screamed absolute lungs off at each other in Vancouver, cried over mushrooms that were just too spicy in Mumbai, and even disputed over who should shred the potatoes in Portugal just a week ago. These memories we've made across the globe together, Kay, have been some of the greatest gifts I've ever received in my life. And look, I'm not gonna lie, we've had more than our fair share of miscommunications. But at the end of the day, Kay never fails to be there for me when I need him. He's not only my first point of call, but for my fellow peers and teachers too. No matter what you need, the boy's got you covered. And I realized on our senior trip that if someone is willing to let you coat them in petroleum jelly and place them in a bathtub full of basmati rice, then they are probably the most selfless and generous friend that you are ever going to get. For me, Kay is the friend who would tear a hamstring just to come second in a lip sync battle. That really meant a lot to me. The kind to invite you into his home, very honestly and brutally critique your art, spread nightly dinners, sharing his thoughts and ever-evolving business plans. Well, in the moment, perhaps, I didn't realize just how much Kay had my back this entire TGS experience. I now know for sure that this good thing we got going on was definitely what made me be able to complete the last 2 years. What lies ahead for this young man is a life of achievement and happiness. And I'm sure that one day, when we are older and wiser, and far more civil with one another in public, we'll look back together on these days with such humour, astonishment and love. I'm beyond thankful to have you in my life, bro. You have no idea. It's a pleasure and an honour for me to introduce to you my friend, Kay Martin Burnett.
So I think the most interesting people that I've met in my life have had really diverse backgrounds, and for those people, they've got to know a lot of people, experience a lot of ways of life, and that's really shaped who they are. And so for me personally, I really try to aspire to be just like them so that I can then carry that forward and share it with other people. I think when I visit countries, I would often only see what I guess governments and tourist organizations want you to see. But when you move somewhere for a couple of months, you really get to see so much of the city in terms of the way the locals live. And I think for me, the best part about traveling all the time is I really get to become a local of all these different places. I'm gonna miss living out of a suitcase with nothing but my friends and teachers who have become my second family, because there's something about being able to absorb so much in such a little time that I'm so privileged to have had.
Coach? Le Coach. I can't see you, but I can feel you. I hope you can feel me too. You know, there are few people in the world who never, ever complain, or do so little of it that one is blown away when something negative is said. There are few people who have an aura which never ceases to make you be grateful for what you have every single minute that you're with them. And there are few people whose laugh is always, and I mean always, funnier than the joke. The other day, even when you have a dairy, a nut, basically everything but a slab of meat allergy, and no, I'm not going to include your fake mushrooms, we all know you just don't like them, and the waiter has just served you a salad sprinkled in peanuts, which he claims is corn, somehow you joke with her and have a great time, when for all we know, you could have passed away and joined Wakanda. But you're here. You may not have had your EpiPen on you, but you're here. This guy, Kojo, moves on like you would never know, with such harsh realities of life. Kojo, your smile, your laugh, and your positivity is contagious and empowering. We have tremendously benefited from your calm and collected attitude in life. There will not only be an absence of genuine laughs after today, but also thought-provoking perspectives on culture, race, and Black identity. Funny and intellectual, what else can one ask for? Oh, right. Just look at him today. My God. I am blessed tonight, and I won't feel bad if I get your name wrong, as it is my utmost honor to introduce my friend, now family, Kojo Edojemfi.
The number one thing that did attract me to TGS was the sense of having a new adventure, like moving on to something completely different. And I think even though I was excited to go on an adventure, I didn't really know what that meant until I actually got there and I noticed how like different things could be. And I think just learning how to, handle it and, actually enjoy the moment for what it is, no matter what it is really, it's been something that's really helped me, and I think it's definitely gonna help me like continue to do like different and extreme things in the future. It's taught me to have a lot of empathy for other people, because you go into like places like India or going to Bosnia, and people they've gone through a lot of traumatic experiences, and things like that really impact the way I look at the world now. And at least to me personally, it's given me kind of like a push to want to help people around my age to be more hopeful or have the opportunities to make their lives better, because I was lucky enough to have this opportunity, and not a lot of people, even where I'm from, have this opportunity. And so helping people just enjoy life has been like something that I definitely want to give back for this experience that I'm lucky to have.
The class of 2018 is...
What?
Oh, like I have to answer.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm not good at these. Am I allowed to say damn?
That's so difficult.
One of my favorite experiences with the school was hiking in the mountains of Peru. Sorry, was it Peru, Jen?
Wait, I'm going too long, right?
That's okay.
Ah, okay.
That's awesome.
The class of 2018 is crazy and awesome, and I love them.
The class of 2018 is wild.
Extraordinary.
Unpredictable.
Diverse.
The weirdest people I know.
It's energetic.
Intriguing.
Amazing.
Charming.
Dynamic.
The class of 2018 is a family.
He said one day you'll leave this world behind, so live a life you will remember. My father told me when I was just a child, these are the nights to never die.
TGS teachers are exceptional, insightful,
our friends,
Unique,
incredible,
super driven, and always there to help you.
inspirational,
Our mentors.
Supportive. Brilliant. Scary.
The weirdest thing I've seen during my time at TGS is touching a cannibal's nipples.
A fun and genuine debate on the best way to sacrifice meat.
Do you really want to know?
Getting chased by a hammer shark.
The Medina on fire.
A street circus performance in San Francisco.
might not be legal.
If I have one word to sum up this experience, it would be life-changing.
Crazy.
Chaos.
Unforgettable.
Unforgettable.
There is no one word to sum up this experience.
Too fast. No, that's not one word. Holistic.
Great.
And some of the life-changing.
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 Life-changing. Dash. Together.
So I thank you for giving me this opportunity to kind of close it out. I began my TGS career with 4 members of the graduating class. Oskar was definitely shorter, and so was Elliot. Udi came to my house many times to eat dinner with my family. And Kojo and I learned how to cook Kojo's diet in the common room of New Zealand. So that was always so they'll have a very fond memory for me and my family as my career began and as their career began at TGS. I want to close out with a reading from Outward Bound. Everybody knows I'm a huge Outward Bound fan, and I think this is an appropriate moment. The world needs more people who do not have a price at which they can be bought, who do not borrow from integrity to pay for expediency, who have their priorities straight and in proper order, whose handshakes is an ironclad contract, who are not afraid of taking risks to advance what is right, and who are honest in small matters as they are in large ones. The world needs more people whose ambitions are big enough to include others, who know how to win with grace and lose with dignity, who do not believe that the shrewdness and cunning and ruthlessness are the 3 keys to success, who still have friends, hopefully these friends, they have made 20 years ago, who put principle and consistency above politics or personal advancement. The world needs more people who do not forsake what is right just to get consensus because it makes them look good, who know how important it is to lead by example, not by barking orders, who would not have you do something they would not do themselves, who work to turn even the most adverse circumstances into opportunities to learn and improve, and who love even those who have done some injustice or unfairness to them. The world, in other words, needs more true leaders. Tonight, I feel confident that the world has gotten additional 14 additional voices who will strive for justice and live out the mission and core values of TGS. It is my extreme pleasure to introduce the graduating class of 2018.
Everyone, feel free to make your way to dinner. There's a wonderful path out for you. And if the graduates could stay here, please. Thank you.
I look, I'll have to go over it.
Want to say hi in the video?
Oh God.
That's how I did.